Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. My name is Tisalviani from class 03 and she is my friend is Juliana. Today we want to explain about the use of education game in learning the classification of living things. First, I will talk about the meaning of education game. But before I start, does anyone know what education game? Okay, alright. Education game is an educational game or educational game are from educational activity carry out using educational method or tool that can improve language skill, thinking, and getting along with their environment. Then next, this topic is about purpose. Will be explained by my friend. Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Miss Filiana. That I want to present here to all of you about the purpose. The purpose of this study was to improve the activities and learning outcomes of the 7th grade student of Wonosobo Junior High School. In addition, by playing games, children are required to learn how to operate computers and master English because this game use English. Okay, next I'm return to add moderator.
Okay, come back with me. Now I will explain methodology of the research. First, total of 7th grade student at Wonosobo Junior High School is 28. There is 9 male and 19 female. The object of the research in the learning of outcome obtained student before cycle or pre-cycle, cycle 1 and cycle 2 in the subject matter classification of living. Okay, next, data source is divided into two. One, primary data and two, secondary data. Primary data is taken from the result of tests carried out by students specifically for aspect of understanding the concept. Meanwhile, and secondary data is obtained from observation data during learning. Then next, data collection technique, test and non-test. After that, there are three kinds data collection technique. First, documentation, observation, and less test. And less data collection tool. One, student personal note. Two, list of initial or pre-cycle condition. 3, cycle observation sheet 1. 4, cycle 1 item. And 5, cycle observation sheet 2 and less item on cycle 2. Okay. Okay, the result, discussion, and conclusion will be explained by my friend Miss V.
Okay, I would like to talk to you about the result. The result of the initial reflection on the learning outcomes of class 7 student of Wonosobo Junior High School semester 1 year 2009 or 2010 on classification material. Before the action was carried out in cycle 1, the learning result was obtained with an average value of 55.03. While only 1 out of 20 students completed the study or only 3.7%. In the first meeting, recycle activities, the students who were actively discussing were 53.6%. While at the second meeting, the students who were actively discussing were 50%. This means a decrease. The percentage of students who were actively discussing at the first meeting, 53.6%. And at the second meeting, it increased to 64.3%. And at the third meeting, it increased again to be 71.4%. This means that student motivation is high. Okay, next, the activeness of the student can also be seen from their courage in answering oral question given by the teacher at the end of the lesson. Students are no longer awkward in answering question from the teacher. If one student answer is wrong, it is immediately corrected by another student. They even scramble to answer question. After learning in cycle 1, there is written test which is done by student with a predetermined time and the material that has been determined. The implementation time takes another day, so there is time for student to prepare. It turned out the student learning outcomes as very high compared to pre-cycle learning outcomes. From the result of the test cycle 1, the data obtained, the mean score of student was actually 1.7. The highest score achieved by student was 100. The lowest score was 52. Student who completed learning was 67.8%. There was an average increase from 55 during the pre-cycle to 81.7, which mean in increase of 26.7. Student who completed learning also experienced an increase from 3.7% during pre-cycle to 67.8% during the first cycle, which means an increase of 64.1%. It turns out that the learning method with education game can make students active, thus motivating them to learn. To further improve learning outcomes in cycle 2, there needs to be a little addition to the learning media, and there are changes in the learning scenario. For this reason, the research designed this edition by writing the material in education game and give it to students to learn before playing games. From the student activity table above, it is now that from the first meeting to the second meeting, there is an increase in the average. The number of students who actively discuss at the first meeting was 82.1%, and at the second meeting, it increased to 85.7%. This means that student learning motivation is high. This has an impact on student learning outcomes, which also increase. From the observation that learning using education game from cycle 1 to cycle 2, students became more active in discussion, many asked questions, and the learning process was more lively. Data of student mean score was 87.5. The highest score achieved by student was 100. The lowest score was 65. Student who completed learning was 88.5%. This has increased average class value from cycle 1 to cycle 2 by 5.8 points, and an increase in completeness from cycle 1 to cycle 2 by 20.7%. Okay, the conclusion, based on the research data on the learning cycle 1 and cycle 2 by using education game, can be concluded that use education game both theoretically and empirically in learning can improve learning outcomes and student activities. Especially the subject of science biology, the subject or classification of living things, the use of the education game is becoming more effective with accompanying more good sheets. Okay, thanks for attention.
So, thank you for your attention and time. Have a good day and see you next time and bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.